buried today. 5 nuclear scientists, described as the elite of Russia's main nuclear test site, killed with 2 others when a small nuclear reactor exploded. They were testing an engine, thought to be for this new cruise missile, a weapon President Putin boasted about last year as capable of outsmarting American defenses. Russian officials say radiation levels spiked to 20 times normal levels. People in nearby cities stocked up on iodine to reduce the effects of radiation. President Trump tweeting tonight, the US is learning much from the failed missile explosion, which has people worried about the air there and far beyond. Initially, though, Moscow had denied a leak, as it did covering up the Chernobyl blast 35 years ago, the world's worst nuclear accident.
On a California highway during a traffic stop, a driver opening fire, killing a police officer and injuring 2 others before he was taken down.
A routine traffic stop in Southern California turning into a highway gun battle in rush hour traffic. Overnight, officers and deputies exchanging dozens of rounds of gunfire with 49-year-old suspect Aaron Luther armed with a long gun. Motorists pulling over and ducking to get away from the gunfire.
Oh my God, there is a shooting. There is a shooting right now. Happening right now.
A CHP officer and the suspect both killed, 2 other officers wounded. According to police, around 5:30 p.m., a CHP unit pulled the driver of this truck over, then deciding to impound his vehicle. The suspect went to his truck to retrieve items. That's when he pulled out a gun and began firing. Somehow, that mortally wounded officer managing to radio for help.
Police in Malaysia have found a body in the search for a missing Irish teenager.
We sent our forensic team and the pathologists to the scene of crime and confirmed there's a body there which resembles Nora.
Police also said the body was found without clothing. 15-year-old Nora Quoirin, who had learning difficulties, went missing from the Dusan resort in Seremban, south of the capital, on August 4th, shortly after arriving for a holiday with her family. More than 300 people were involved in the search for Nora, including Malaysian shamans and police from Britain, Ireland and France.
As the US maintains the pressure on Iran, tension is on the rise. American and British vessels have been deployed in the Gulf as the US calls for an international military coalition to secure the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's busiest shipping routes. But Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif told Al Jazeera that the naval build-up could destabilize the entire region.
This is a tiny body of water, and the more foreign naval vessels you have in this body of water, the less secure it is for everybody. Based on experience, presence of the United States and foreign naval fleets in the Persian Gulf has never produced security.
Back up and running. Hong Kong's international airport reopened its doors early on Tuesday after it canceled all of its flights in the face of unprecedented protests at the major hub. Still, though, hundreds of flights were canceled or delayed on Tuesday as airlines struggled to reposition aircraft and rebook passengers. Meanwhile, Hong Kong's chief executive, Carrie Lam, defended the actions of the police, who have been accused of brutalizing protesters in recent weeks. She also warned that protests could put Hong Kong in a precarious situation.
Violence, whether it's being violent or condoning violence, will push Hong Kong down a path of no return. It will plunge Hong Kong society into a very worrying and dangerous situation.
Mr. Neum, thanks very much for your time this afternoon. I mean, this issue around police bribery, we now know that some of those officers have allegedly been trying to sell back confiscated goods to these traders in the Joburg CBD. It's not a new phenomenon. It doesn't make it right.
Definitely not. It is an ongoing challenge that the South African Police Service has been faced with for many years. Of course, corruption in the police didn't start with democracy. It was a problem before then. But I think what is important to recognize here is certainly over the last 2 years or so, we've seen more attention being given to this challenge by the South African Police Service. So it is important to note that these police officers were arrested by their colleagues. We've seen a dedicated anti-corruption capacity, investigation capacity being established over the last couple of years so that each province has its own set of police investigators that only investigate allegations of criminality and corruption against police officers.
Well, right now, investigators are trying to figure out who intentionally caused this gondola system to collapse in Squamish, British Columbia. Ben Milger has more.
With a crime scene in treacherous terrain halfway up a mountain, Squamish RCMP called in the emergency response team to help gather evidence as it tries to figure out who committed a dangerous act of sabotage on the Sea to Sky gondola.
It is a criminal investigation. We're looking at mischief over $1 million.
Under the cover of darkness Saturday morning, someone scaled this tower and somehow managed to cut a steel cable, sending the gondola cars tumbling down the steep slope. Now both police and management want to know why.
It was the spring trip that took a scary turn at more than 30,000 feet when a woman on board a United Airlines flight from San Diego to Houston headed to the first-class bathroom. In court documents, she described seeing an item with a blue blinking light hanging near the cabinet and wall area close to a door hinge. She thought it was odd, so she gave it to the flight crew. Authorities later confirmed the device was a hidden camera that had been used before, capturing 2 other women on an Emirates flight. The challenge, identifying the person who put it there. Footage never showed the suspect's face, so authorities turned to airport surveillance to zero in on what they could see. A blue shirt, jeans, and black tennis shoes. They matched one of the more than 600 passengers on board. He's identified as Chun Ping Lee, a Malaysian national seated in first class, now facing federal charges of video voyeurism aboard an aircraft.
Well, we're putting money into every aspect of the criminal justice system. So we're putting more police out on the street, 20,000 more officers out on the street, but there's no point asking them to arrest more people and put people away for long periods for serious sexual and violent offences unless you have the places. So we're going to have another 10,000 places. But as you rightly say, I don't want to see prisons just being factories to turn bad people worse. We need to be making sure that they're educated and that there isn't a culture of gangsterism and drugs and criminality in the prison. So what we're doing today is putting 100 million into scans and to checks of all kinds to protect the staff and to stop the prisoners bringing in, to put it bluntly, in their alimentary systems, drugs or mobile phones or whatever.
Imported products can be rare commodities in Venezuela, but this is starting to change following a recent government decision to loosen currency controls. The measure has allowed banks and citizens to buy and sell U.S. dollars for the first time in 16 years.
We can't find any of these products here, so we import them. It's the new trend. It's really changed the economy. Here on the street there are 60 shops, and around 15 to 20 of them are imported goods shops.
Authorities are looking the other way as the dollar in some places has replaced the worthless local currency, the bolivar. It's been a welcome boost to people with access to dollars, such as those who receive money from relatives abroad.